Hi, I'm Dr. Call, and about 5 months ago, I came up with a small campaign to start helping people with diabetes understand the condition, or even those who are at risk, a little bit better here in Columbus, Ohio. Um, the plan really began several years ago when I was doing events and organizing symposia for diabetes awareness. This goes as far back as 2014. Uh, during my time in Germany. And since then, we've been able to have events in Germany, in India, and now also in the US. And what I'd like to open with, of course, is that I'm a scientist. I've worked on diabetes and diabetic complications for several years now. One of the complications that I'm now beginning to work on that a lot of people don't attribute to diabetes instinctively is breast cancer. And I'd probably even go as far back as saying that this isn't about diabetes, but the key contributor to diabetes, which is insulin resistance. I believe I've spoken about insulin resistance before in a previous podcast, and I'm always happy to highlight that for anybody who's interested. But essentially, I'm looking at how insulin resistance through the different organ systems, especially through its effect on the immune system, is potentially promoting breast cancer in certain individuals. And in some cases, it makes the survival rates quite a lot lower. The possibility of responding to medication can be lowered also as a result of obesity, insulin resistance, or diabetes. So, of course, people like me are working round the clock on finding therapies for both these terrible outcomes, both breast cancer and diabetes, of course. But at the same time, we're all very aware that environment and lifestyle play an extremely important role when it comes to controlling a number of these conditions. And if not controlling them and preventing them necessarily, then at least finding a way of impeding their progress and their development. To this end, today I'd like to talk a little bit about exercise and fitness. Because fitness, unfortunately, has become a whole industry in itself. And for that reason, it's also become extremely market driven, very targeted towards certain types of individuals, certain types of age groups and demographics, without any concern for precisely the benefits that come out of it. I, in fact, have recently posted some information around this as well, but periodically we find individuals, especially women, being bombarded with images of other females with flat stomachs or more firm body parts as a way of projecting fitness, as opposed to the focus being on not the aesthetic and the appearance, but the act of fitness. We forget sometimes that exercise isn't just a means of losing weight. It's actually a means of becoming stronger, gaining stamina, increasing your mobility and flexibility so you can avoid injuries in your lifetime, and also avoiding long-term physical injury and concerns. In most women, a little resistance training across their life can actually help build stronger bones, for example. But unfortunately, a lot of women don't feel like they should be lifting weights. There's this tendency that we like to believe that cardio is pretty much the only workout you need. So, what I'm hoping to do today is just give you a little breakdown of what the current understanding of exercise and its impact on diseases is, and just what you need to really take away from the notion of exercise, if it is a functional attribute as opposed to an aesthetics driven feature. So, when we think about it from the functional point of view, like I mentioned, the key features of what exercise should be able to achieve for you is it should be able to help build strength, it should be able to help improve your stamina and endurance, and it should be able to improve your coordination, your flexibility, and mobility. And the way exercise starts working in physiology is that it actually has an impact very acutely. So the moment you start your exercise, you're already altering physiological signals in your cells. Your cells begin to note your muscles, your liver, your fat cells, everything is suddenly signaled and told that your body's exercising. And this happens through a signaling pathway known as the AMPK. Happy to include some of the papers about this in our information box later. But thanks to the initiation of these signals, a number of cell stress signals are reduced, a number of signals that are associated with inflammation in the body are reduced. And the positive effects of a single bout of exercise, no matter how big or small, are actually still there. And they exist, they continue in your body for a long period of time. So, no workout is a bad workout, basically. And every single bout of exercise you take on is in some way benefiting your body. One of the most important things that exercise does is it helps reprogram your body's metabolism. It helps your body understand that because present day life is such that we have constant access to food, we have constant access to higher calories than we actually need. So the body begins to lose synchronicity in terms of what it needs to use for its everyday energy. And exercise helps reboot that in a way. It helps readjust the body's metabolic mechanisms and its energetics needs. And that is the most beautiful thing, that it is essentially free medicine, and it's possibly the least used of medicines out there. So we're going back to this notion of what's usually recommended in terms of exercise. And most days, what you'll hear is 30 minutes of exercise 5 days a week is all you need. Any form of activity. Take a walk or jog or do yoga, whatever suits you. The problem with that model is that you don't know what you really need to do. And if you don't know what your endpoints are, where do you begin? Where do you start? What do you focus on? So something I did with some friends last year was a little experiment in high intensity interval training. Thank you so much, both ladies, Ashwini and Shilpi. We had a great time working out together. For about 8 weeks, we performed high intensity interval training, only 15 minutes long on a given day. For I think 3 days a week was the intention, although we ended up doing it almost every day because we loved it so much. And the outcome was essentially that all of us had better stamina coming from it, and we were better able to perform in other forms of exercise that we enjoyed. I was lifting at the time, and it massively improved my skills and running capacity as well. And I believe both the other ladies had similar experiences for themselves. And the way we went about planning our high intensity interval training was also extremely simple. It didn't need heavy gym equipment. It was very body weight driven. So there were components of more cardiovascular challenges, and at the same time, there were components that required us to simply do a certain number of push-ups or squats. And it is incredible how something as simple as jumping jacks and squats can be life-changing. So if either of you have any comments to give back about this, Ashwini, Shilpi, I'd love to hear from you. But the effects of that bout of 8 weeks of high intensity interval training definitely benefited me for almost a year afterwards, where I couldn't keep up with my usual schedules of exercise anymore. I wasn't lifting as much as I usually would like to, but I hardly noticed the change in weight, and overall my stamina still remained pretty steady. So at this point, I thought, it's time for another experiment, and starting this coming Monday, 12th of March, I intend to start a 12-week session, which for now I'm doing by myself. So I'd love for people to join me, and if you just drop me your email address somewhere, in a message or an email somewhere, I would happily share my plan with you so you can try it for yourself. Free of cost, obviously. This is really an experiment I'm doing for myself, and I'd love to see if other people would like to try it, modify it for their own purposes, and see what you'd like to do with it. So the way I'm doing this is I'm breaking the 12 weeks down into 4 separate segments. 2 week long for strength and conditioning initially, then coordination, then stamina and cardiovascular, and finally endurance and flexibility. And between the 2 weeks that break down into separate sessions, there'll be a so-called test week where I've come up with my own endpoints to make sure that I'm not just doing things for the sake of doing them. But this is, again, something that I prefer to do naturally. You're more than welcome to modify it for your own choice and whatever you would prefer to get out of this process. The way I'm looking at doing strength and conditioning personally is to focus on what I rather enjoyed last year, which is deadlifts and reloaded squats and more weight training associated exercises. The coordination is actually going to be really fun. I started some Muay Thai, some Thai kick boxing in January this year, and my intention is to come up with a 10-minute choreography of sorts for Muay Thai, which includes the usual amount of motions: roundhouse, front kicks, jabs, and upcuts and lower cuts and touch and goes and all the wonderful things that I was taught at the Short North Muay Thai gym. The stamina cardiovascular will be tested based on the Cooper test, which is probably the oldest form of test ready to look at endurance, but I think it should be interesting to see if I can run a minimum 2 kilometers in 12 minutes. And finally, there'll be the endurance and flexibility, where I'll be pushing myself to look at how many sit-ups a minute, how many push-ups a minute, how many jumping jacks, and flexibility tests would be very generic, I suppose, in some ways, but I'm coming up with a good gold standard wherever I can find one. So like I said, the idea is to try and push myself for 12 weeks to see how I can overall improve my fitness levels, and then look at how the scalability works. If I can pursue this for longer term periods, or if I can perhaps pursue one form of exercise for a long period of time, followed by another. But this is really what I'm trying to put across as well, that it's really up to you what you choose to do in terms of physical activity. If you're a runner, go run. If you enjoy lifting, do that. If you prefer something like yoga, do that. But be aware that any form of exercise needs to ideally address as many of your physical activity components and needs. And don't be too driven by how it changes your appearance quite yet. Your first focus really should be just to log in the hours, show up, do what you need to do, and everything else will follow suit. Another really interesting discussion I had with a colleague recently was actually about the fact that multiple individuals, multiple users at the end of the day, don't realize that benefits of exercise come independent of weight loss. So even if you find that you're exercising but you're seeing no change in weight, it doesn't have to be disheartening at all, because believe it or not, you're still getting the health benefits. That day, 2 weeks from then, 6 months from then, your body is still benefiting. Instead of focusing on any amount of change in inches, weight, the way you appear, your clothing, whatever, just focus on putting in the hours, and again, it's not even that much. So if you'd like to understand a little bit more about high intensity interval training and what sort of a program we took on last year, I'd be happy to share that plan with you guys as well. And if you're looking to try out the 12-week workout experiment with me this year, I'd love to have company and to be able to exchange notes with someone, because some of the things I have planned are definitely exciting and they're very new for me, and I'd love to see if anybody else could also join my little journey and experiment and exchange notes. So with that, I would like to conclude with just the fact that there are some notes and some papers in our description. Feel free to look through them. I think exercise was a huge part of clarifying my brain and mind, and I think helping me realign a lot of my priorities in late 2016 leading up to sort of mid 2017, and I've really benefited from the process. And overall in life, I think anybody who has ever been an athlete, done any kind of sports, or has had any inkling towards exercise knows that just the smallest amount can actually change your day. It can bring a real spring to your step. So I hope more people choose to take it on. For information specifically about exercise and the extent of exercise you need as somebody with diabetes, or individuals with breast cancer, or somebody who cares for such people and wants to propose the idea of taking on more activity to their loved ones, feel free to reach out and I can try and share specific research around this so that you're aware of what's a good limit to try and, or good threshold to be aiming for. But that aside, I hope that some of you come back to saying that you'd like to join my efforts with the 12-week program. And a side note, I am trying to raise some funds and awareness for this wonderful, wonderful charity called Pelotonia. The link for this charity is also present in the bio. So please feel free to browse through the website. They're doing some incredible work here in Columbus. Not only are they supporting research for cancer cure, but they're also very focused on helping patients and supporting caregivers who really are doing God's work. So I hope you take a minute to look through the website, and if you so feel welcome to donate to this charity as well. With that, thank you so very much for listening to me today and for your time, and I hope you connect with us again very soon. If you have anything that you specifically want to have a podcast about, I'd love to take a dig at it, have a go at it. So be in touch, let's make this a conversation, and speak to you soon. Until then, stay fit, stay happy.